glad to commence the meeting. Michelle Pananopoulos cannot make it today, so Rob and I will handle the infrastructure committee business. First item on the agenda is finally approving the minutes for May and June, which we were unable to do last month because we didn't have a quorum. So, Rob, do you have any comments about that?
They look fine. I looked at them earlier.
So let's put the minutes up on our webpage. And we also do not have official minutes for the July meeting because that was a discussion meeting rather than a business meeting, since we did not have an in-person quorum. Do you have any comments about those notes?
No.
Right. So in the interest of transparency, we're also going to post the notes from that July meeting where the minutes would usually be. Our next item is a presentation from Adam Crom of the Planning Commission for potential improvements on Linwood Road.
Adam, could you try sharing your screen on here, and that way we don't have to go back and forth, and I can keep an eye on the Zoom participants as well?
Yes. Sharing my screen. I brought hard copies too, just to. Yeah. I think that I went through like $30 of personal painting and I'm putting these on my desktop because the printer is free, but the ink is like $100 a page.
Thank you, Adam. And in the future, if you ever want anything like this printed out by the office, just let me know.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm still totally learning the protocols. I'm pretty much brand new to the Planning Commission, still just a few months. So thanks for hosting this discussion. As you know, the Planning Commission had a development and subdivision proposal for 3 Elmwood that is part of, I think, the genesis of why we wanted to discuss Wynwood Road. That proposal contemplated rebuilding the entire curb line in order to place curb cuts for driveways, would also rebuild the sidewalk, slightly shift its location, widen it slightly, and then it would require utility cuts in the road surface laterally across to the far side of the road to get to, I think, like the sewer and water lines. So you would be opening the road up to lay down your pipes and so on in trenches and quite a few of them. So it would have involved a fair amount of infrastructure work in the right-of-way itself. It requires coordination also with Lower Merion and PennDOT, and it requires a highway occupancy permit in order to get the access points added to Wynwood Road, which is a PennDOT facility. So I live on Elmwood Avenue, so I'm in this neighborhood quite a lot. I don't know if you can see it. I'm not sure if it's sharing my screen anymore. Let's see if I do this. Share screen.
There we go.
Okay, so I'll show a couple of images and drawings related to Wynwood Road and some that's not advancing. Concepts related to improving it from a safety perspective. So Wynwood Road is varies in width as it goes along the edge of the borough. The primary pedestrian crossing point of interest is, I believe, at Woodside Avenue, which might be also where the Greenway is proposed to go across. On one side is the opening to Shortridge Park, and on the other side, of course, is Narberth and the borough, and then also is a walking route really all the way to Marion Elementary School. So it's a major pedestrian corridor because it connects the shopping center at the Wynwood Plaza train station area, connects to Shortridge Park, and it connects the school and the borough across Wynwood Road. Unfortunately, that intersection is at the bottom of the valley, so it's kind of downhill both ways going into the riparian stream corridor. The cartway is pretty wide, especially at the top of the hill. The original road was much narrower and much sharper turns, and at some point, probably circa 1950, the curves were smooth and the road was widened. So you can see here, this is looking from the intersection at the tunnel down the hill, and you can see that at this point you have an auxiliary right-hand turn lane. You have a through lane going west, then you have a through lane going east. You can begin to see this splitter here, which is the Gore area, because there's a left turn lane at the intersection going into the tunnel, but not the other way. And then you can see there's actually left over about 8 or 9 feet on the far side of the road. And that's because essentially the road at the intersection is built for four continuous lanes, and it is in fact, I think actually 4 lanes plus parking, or 3 lanes plus parking beyond the tunnel intersection. So it was designed for more lanes than it actually has. So consequently, we were using the leftover space for a right turn lane, which is unusual. There are no other right turn lanes until you get to Lancaster Avenue. And then a shoulder, that you can't park on, but essentially what is a street passing through a residential area. So I just want to compare Wynwood Road to another PennDOT facility not that far away, which is the Cobbs Creek Parkway, just to point out that it's not impossible to do traffic calming or safety improvements on a PennDOT facility. It just requires coordination between different units of government and perhaps some persistence and so on. And I'm not saying this is a great design. It's just an example of beginning to retrofit a corridor to try to make it safer. So this is a photograph showing, in this case, I think speed pillows, speed tables, some vertical delineators as well to channelize the traffic, to try to slow cars down so they're not speeding through this area, because again, on one side is a park, and on the other side is the city, and so you have a lot of people trying to cross the road, as well as turning traffic. I also just throw in there that they have some stormwater management attempts, so this is where the gutter is going into a little kind of rain garden area to try to, slow down and help purify some of the runoff from the road surface. And then a reverse view of that speed pillow. It does work. I was out there. Traffic slows way down to go over these particular installations, which were not very extensive. So this is the approximate cross section based on aerial photos of Wynwood at the traffic, near the traffic light. So it's almost, I think, almost 50 feet wide at that point, which is pretty wide for what it's really doing. You do need some width to get the proper turning geometrics for longer wheelbase vehicles and so on. But again, this is not like a designated truck route or anything like that. As you go down the hill, it gets narrower, so I think it's more like 40 feet wide as you move down the hill. And again, you can see that we're using that extra width as a turn lane and plus a shoulder. And that creates this sort of highway effect of, anytime you have extra lanes and extra width, motorists tend to go faster because they feel more confident, that the road is designed for a higher speed. So this is just beginning to talk about, well, could we repurpose some of that excess width to basically, as part of 2 strategies, right? One is to try to bring the speed down to 25 miles an hour, which matches the speed as you move towards Wynwood train station, right? On the block from Wynwood to Lancaster, the speed limit is already 25 miles an hour. And it varies along the course of, along all these roads, but the next contiguous speed zone is 25. So if we could get it to 25 through the borough, then it becomes much more feasible to put in a crosswalk or pedestrian crossing between Shortridge at Woodside. But to get cars to slow down, we need to intervene in the actual roadway to essentially calm the traffic. If we do that, we're going to have leftover space, and so there's sort of different ways we could use it. One is to possibly put in a tree strip, which would buffer the sidewalk from the traffic, create a more pleasant walking environment. And then, maybe look at putting in a cycle path of some kind, either a side path with protection. We could possibly do a mixed-use trail, something along those lines. Then the basic idea being that the train station and the shopping center are further up the hill, and wouldn't it be great to have a facility that would be safe, particularly for children, but really for anybody to cycle along Wynwood. That may take more time to implement, especially over a longer corridor, but there's probably room as we go. And the discussion with Lower Merion Township was that as projects come in for development, we need to get ahead of this with, essentially design for Wynwood Road that would be multimodal and pedestrian oriented. So I did some drawings as well, and I can zoom in on the PDFs instead of the slides, and I printed out a couple of copies for you. So again, this is the aerial photo that was provided by the county, and it shows the drawings as they came for the Wynwood Road development. So it's not that I'm endorsing that development. The Planning Commission actually voted not to recommend moving forward with that development, in particular because of the stormwater issues of putting so much impervious coverage right on the riparian area, among other issues. And then, of course, it isn't ideal either from a traffic and circulation standpoint. But in terms of trying to mitigate some of the issues, what you see here is essentially taking away the auxiliary right turn lane, because there isn't a right turn lane at most of the other intersections along this road. And there'll be a slight increase in the number of cars that have to queue, but if only 2 or 3 cars are turning right in any light phase, you're talking about adding at most 2 or 3 cars to the queue, and a lot of times there's really not any traffic on this road at all. It's really only concentrated to 1 or 2 peak hours. Possibly putting in a splitter pedestrian island to create a refuge and also help channelize the traffic so that it's not such a long crossing distance, because again, it's I think 50 feet crosswalk today. And then possibly, if we can, to take the leftover shoulder space, and again, that could be used as a cycle path. And either this is showing a physically protected 2-way bike lane system. An alternative would be a mixed-use side path behind the curb. And by putting it on this side of the road, then there's not any conflicts with turning vehicles, is the idea. And then it would, because we have 4 lanes or extra lanes to work with as we go towards the train station, potentially you could reorder the cross-section on the next block face in Lower Marion as you go. Because again, that auxiliary lane is not used. In fact, the vegetation is claiming it today because it's not being cut back, and there's not enough vehicles to keep the Virginia creeper from creeping across the roadway. So that road lane is really not necessary until you get further towards the Lancaster Avenue. So that's that intersection. And then the other key intersection is Woodside. So the idea of Woodside is basically, again, to narrow the road down to 2 lanes instead of having this wide shoulder space, and potentially put in a cycle path. And then if we can get the speed slow enough, maybe with speed pillows or any other form of traffic calming, like the splitter islands and so on, maybe we could even do something like a raised intersection at Woodside. So that's the idea of raising the whole intersection up to sidewalk level, with some gentle ramps on all of the approaching streets. But again, it enforces the intended design speed of the road. It tries to bring the speed down. You can't just barrel over the thing at 35, 45, or 50 miles an hour. And then that would allow us to put in potentially marked crosswalks, because it will be safer and more likely that motorists would yield. It's still not a controlled intersection on the main Wynwood movement. I mean, a traffic engineer could come up with maybe other alternatives. You could have a design charrette to talk to the alternatives. This is just meant to illustrate that there might be a way to get that crossing constructed. So the idea was that the borough could engage through the highway occupancy permit process, if that were going forward for 3 Elmwood, to request, potentially at a minimum, relocating the curb line on the block between Woodside, Elmwood, and the tunnel to the new configuration, and putting in the new tree lawn and so on, and then additional improvements could follow at a future date as infrastructure projects progress. So that is my presentation in a nutshell.
Thanks. So you just mentioned moving the curb line. So how would the curb line move exactly? I didn't fully catch that.
So essentially, you move the curb line out a certain number of feet from where it is today. I think if we look at it today, it's about closer to where the sidewalk is. So you would move it, you'd have to measure it out within, I don't want to get it wrong in terms of the exact number of feet, but 6 to 8 feet. out to make a wider pedestrian zone.
Constricting it would slow the speeds as well. Likely, that should have some sort of calming effect. You would narrow the road.
That's the intent. In this case, if this project were to move forward through Elmwood, then and I'm not, again, endorsing that in any way, but having the driveway enter where you have multiple lanes like that creates more hazards, because you can't like see around all the cars and people sort of pull out, they might get hit. There's a lot of issues. There's tempting to turn left inside. So the idea was to simplify the traffic movement, and then it will enforce the speed limit better, and it will be less vehicle conflicts also.
So we should probably clarify, if anyone's listening, what the current status of that 3 Elmwood project is. After the Planning Commission recommended the council vote against it, the developers asked for an extension. So they did a presentation at the last council meeting, but the council didn't take any action. They didn't ask for any action. So I'm not sure when council is going to be considering it next.
Yeah, I believe the current extension that was granted by council at its July meeting, runs through September. So unless another extension is granted, council would need to make a decision at its September meeting.
So this project is still very much up in the air right now. I think it's fair to say they faced some skeptical questions at the last council meeting. All right, so going back to these ideas, as someone who has taken a small child into Shortridge Park, I find that intersection of the one at, what is it, Woodside? No. Yeah, the one at Woodside. I find that alarming. I find it dangerous. So I think that trying to make a selling point, this is a park entrance and we need to make it safer, is extremely compelling to me. And I hope to others as well. So I think that, I know people don't want to go to that park because of that, because it's hard to get there.
Oh yeah, it's a major problem, and the number of complaints that we get as a committee about this section of road, I mean, it's almost every week we're getting another email. Thank you, Adam, for bringing this. I mean, this is really impressive that as a planning commission, you're trying to get ahead of this. I mean, I don't think we've ever been in that position. It's always been, it's such a difficult road because it's a boundary. So, I just had 2 small questions, and then I wanted to ask Fred and Samantha about process. So my small questions for Adam would be that right turning lane as you come up East Wynwood from Elmwood into the tunnel. Eliminating that, I could imagine that could work because those cars can still turn right at a red light. I mean, I think what keeps the traffic moving is people are turning on the red light into the tunnel. So, to my mind, that wouldn't change at all by eliminating the right turning lane. Does that sound right, Adam?
Yeah, I would expect minimal impact, but of course you can actually simulate and model that to confirm. Yeah.
Because, I mean, my experience is that the cars are sitting in that left lane at a red light, and everyone else is turning on the right. So.
Yeah, because during the green phase, where the red, the left turning cars also turn. So you end up waiting for your turn to turn right, and then there really isn't a lot of. I mean, I know people's impressions of traffic is essentially relative. But you can often go out there today and there's hardly anybody there, if anybody. So you have entirely, even if you shortened the right turn lane to just 2 or 3 car lengths, you could probably not have it continue for the entire block. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It goes all the way to Elmwood Avenue.
Right.
It's where the widening starts. And there's no reason for that stacking there. It's just left over.
Right.
And then you probably could eliminate it completely because most traffic is moving straight, and it's a free right turn. So when you have a green light, you You just turn right, there's no waiting.
Right. Okay, that's helpful.
I did want to note, and I think you all caught this, the main change that I would envision is someone who's going straight is parked at the beginning of the line. If you're going to want to turn right, you're going to have to wait for the light to turn green. However, if the first car at the red light is turning right, then yeah, they can just go ahead and turn right. But I've only been here a few months. I do go through that intersection a lot. And I would kind of agree with Adam's perspective that there doesn't seem to be like that much traffic going that direction where that would be the end of the world.
Okay, and then the other thing was, in terms of the Woodside crossing, I just wanted to note that during the pandemic, the school district has hired a crossing guard at the Marion intersection. And I don't know exactly why that intersection was chosen over the Woodside. I mean, the school is, close to Marion, but that's just another level of coordination. Obviously the school district has an interest in promoting walkability during the pandemic and in general. So that could be another partner in what you're imagining. So I like it very much, and I would like to see us pursue. But my big question would be, what kind of process? Assuming 3-on-1. I don't know if it doesn't happen.
Well, if I may, before we move on to that step, if it's okay with you, Councilmember Bush, speaking of community partners and participants, is it okay if we ask Cam about her opinion on this before we talk about it?
Yeah. I mean, I think in general, this would need to. It would be helpful if it were in dialogue with some of our bigger plans that we have. We talk about some of the stuff in the comprehensive plan, in the climate action plan, in the open space plan, I think, even from way back when, and in the bike plans that Ken is more familiar with. So trying to incorporate the history, and I think Ken can give us some insight into the bike plans.
Sure. I mean, so the cycling club, Kimberly Bezak, Narberth Cycling Club. The cycling club, when the 3-on-1 plan came forward, we did attend the town hall and we expressed some pretty, grave concerns about the plan that was moving forward with regards to pedestrian and bicycle safety, those driveways, and no change to that traffic pattern were very concerning to us. Also, just from bike counts and observations, and to Adam's point, that segment from the tunnel to Shortridge is already heavily used by bicycles. When I'm out there walking along that route, there are always kids, with their lacrosse or rugby, backpacks on, and they're pedaling from somewhere on the south side over to Narberth Park. So, and then, same, there's kids from the north side of Narberth that are constantly trying to get to Shortridge. So even under not great conditions, that segment of Wynwood Road is already showing desire lines for safety. With reference to the mainline greenway, the Woodside intersection is one of the big intersections on the proposed route that we do consider a pinch point just because of the traffic speeds and the width of Wynwood Road. So lots of things kind of fall in line around this conversation. If anything, even in having conversations with Lower Marion Township, if they don't necessarily still see the vision of the entire Wynwood Road corridor being in the future, I don't want to speak for them, but I know they're very excited about the mainline greenway and prioritizing those connections right now. Woodside comes over and creates a greenway connection through Narberth on the south side. So that's a major gateway between Lower Marion and Narberth. If there was a way to kind of integrate this big picture with what Adam is envisioning and create a greenway connection from Woodside through the tunnel that then hooks up with the Thomas Wind Trail, that could be a different way to think about a broader connection. Even if it's not Wynwood Road, that's the current focus. That one segment is a really important connection that I see the value in connecting, for school, for bike to transit, for bike to groceries, all of those. And yeah, there was some reference at the fact that that giant shopping center could potentially get redeveloped in the future with all these redevelopments happening. So we're gonna continue to invite more neighbors to our area, and it would be great if we can think really progressively about, how do we proactively encourage people to ditch the car and, stay no car, one car, that kind of thing.
So, moving forward, I think we need to, have you had conversations with Lower Marion Township at all? Anybody in Lower Marion Township about this?
Very, not really. I mean,
Okay.
we had one meeting on the phone with them just to ask them about the process that they were gonna follow.
Okay, because I think obviously they're, kind of equal partners in anything here because they own the other half of the road, so, we.
Hey, Fred,
Yes, thank you.
can I just chime in maybe a little bit? Maybe I could get kind of a little guidance on what might be the next best steps on
Thank
this.
you, Eric.
So Winwood Road, it borders along the borough, but the road is fully within Lower Marion Township. And then layered on top of that, also the PennDOT Road. So I was talking to Mike Schneider earlier, who wasn't able to make it today. And I think all of these plans that are being presented here, it really is a good idea, and I think it's starting to be a culmination of what a lot of the things that we want to see. You're saying you have a little bit of the bike groups. We know we want bike paths in there. We know we want better pedestrian connections. We know that road could be, it doesn't have to be the wide open road that it has been forever. So really, probably the best way to proceed forward is to start to coalesce all those different ideas in combination with Lower Marion Township in like a joint planning study to bring all the people to the table. All right, what do we want to see here, and how can we create that into a uniform plan? Pedestrians, cars, bikes, and then for developing that plan, which it's going to have to be a large player in that plan is Lower Marion because it is within their jurisdiction. But then that plan gives you the justification if you're going forth with, trying to engage PennDOT to do this work or seeking grant funding, or going into like a multimodal type, funding situation. So I think probably, the borough definitely, you can see there's a will on our side, probably good opportunity, good time to start engaging Lower Marion Planning Department, with how we would like to proceed forward with this idea.
Yeah, that was Todd Bressy's suggestion as well, was to bring Lower Marion into this meeting. I thought it was a little premature, but I think now, assuming Borough Council likes the idea, which the two of us do. I find it hard to believe that. I think the rest of council would also be excited about it. I think we're ready to move up to township.
I would be comfortable, with that if you want me to take care of it. I've been in contact with their planning staff with the mainline Greenway meetings with COUN. So Adam, if it's okay with you, if it's okay with you all, I would like to send a copy of this presentation over to the planning staff at Lower Marion Township and start to engage in those conversations that Eric and Todd have suggested.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Great.
Thank you. I don't think council needs to be involved at that level of the discussion. So take it away.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's terrific.
All right. Any other questions or comments about this proposal?
Just one other thought for Kimberly. In terms of that bike lane, I wasn't sure from your comments, were you expressing a preference for it being on one side of the road or another, or?
I think that's a great question for a traffic engineer. I think there several scenarios would be appealing to the Narberth bicycling community. The trend that Lower Marion is really starting to move towards, in my experience of working with them, is shared use side paths. And that was something we had suggested during the 3 Elmwoods town hall. If there was a way to just get bikes out of the roadway onto a, shared side path, that would be an appealing scenario, maybe 8 or 10 feet wide, completely out of the roadway. And, you know, I guess any improvement would be exciting for us to see over existing conditions. So getting the thinkers in the room and talking about the options is really exciting.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Can you keep the pretty pictures?
Yeah, thank you both.
All right. Next item on our agenda, we have some information items for discussion. First up is skate park.
Councilor Bush, if I may, if you want to continue this item, you're the chair of the committee. Since Kim is here, can we actually consider going to the bike proposal for Haverford next?
Yeah, that makes sense. I was just wondering why you were doing.
Yeah, sorry.
No particular reason to stay laser focused. So go ahead. Let's go back. Let's go with Kimberly Bizak, representing the our recycling club. The proposal for a pilot on Haverford Avenue.
I'm gonna share my screen here so we have the images.
Sure. So I'll just talk a little bit real quick while Samantha's sharing. In May, the cycling club came back and gave what I think is turning into our annual presentation on the state of biking and just future considerations. And one of our big asks for 2021, we had 4 suggestions, considerations. One of them was the idea of planning another bicycle pilot, following up on the recommendations that we received from DVRPC after Wheels on Windsor. So we proposed 4 potential locations for future pilot projects, and just through some conversations that we had with Samantha, we felt like this stretch on Haverford Avenue feels really right at this moment to focus on. It's a low-hanging fruit. It is going to soon have a fresh look with the stormwater project that's going to be wrapping up. So we thought now would be a really great opportunity to trial out a concept that would reimagine that stretch of roadway to create a designated space, in addition to the sidewalks and the parking and the cars. Carve out a space for bikes to safely move. Through our observations in that area, we see bicyclists showing a desire to bike the wrong way on Haverford all the time. They're coming from the south side or from the Thomas Wynn Trail, and they want to get downtown, and they turn onto Haverford and they start biking the wrong way, because Haverford is a nice and healthy width at that segment. From the days of it being a 2-way corridor. And so, you hug that section by the Amtrak embankment, and you can almost get downtown, really, without encountering any cars. So we thought that would, based on those desire lines, that it would be a unique opportunity to trial out a temporary concept, an opportunity to tweak that concept and maybe think in terms of transitioning to a semi-permanent or permanent installation through grant, opportunities. So this is just what we cooked up, the cycling club, and offered up as an idea. Again, we are not professionals. We're just advocates and bicyclists. So we would, like to see a professional maybe be brought in to see this through to a final product. But that's what we're proposing right now, would be a contraflow bike lane, sort of like what we saw on the Narberth Bridge before it was closed to traffic. That proof of concept, we would like to see that trialed on Haverford Avenue to create a space for bikes to legally travel towards Borough Hall and downtown, and then bikes traveling with traffic in the existing travel lane.
And then I'd like to emphasize that parking, there would still be parking allowed on Haverford on the side of the street where the Borough building is. I think right now there's signage where parking, is kind of already allowed there. I think it's just like overnight parking, their signage, that's not allowed. And that's something we could consider tweaking as well if we're taking away that parking on the other side. We have been using that other side of the road for parking for the contractors doing work on the construction projects. We would need to figure out where that parking would be instead. I mean, honestly, it could probably be on the other side of the road. I personally go down that road a lot, given that I work here. And during the day, I don't really see a ton of traffic parked alongside the road, which is when the contractors would theoretically be there. It's really like after 4 or 5 o'clock when you really start to see a lot of traffic at Narberth Park. So I would propose that we would still have the parking on the one side. We would direct contractors during the day while those projects are going on to park there. And then after 3 or 4 o'clock when they're all done, it would be available for public use when the public is really getting out there to use it.
I think that makes sense. We can check with other borough staff and see if they have any concerns about that setup. I don't know who came up with the contractor parking. That was new last year.
Right, just to alleviate the congestion over here, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw that it was complete. It was pretty full. There were a lot of contractors today, so I think there's a lot of construction going on Forest right now. So, we want to make sure we have a place for that traffic to be that's not in the downtown area.
Do you know if they can use the parking lot yet? I mean, in the Forest apartment building?
I don't think so. I'm not 100% sure. That's something.
Not yet.
Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Thank you, Eric.
Because that must be imminent, I would think.
I mean, I know
They're getting closer at this point, where there's still active construction, enough going on that they're using the parking lot for staging and construction.
the SEPTA lot is totally open at the moment, isn't it? So, at least
Well, just to
for now.
add, I think with the time frame on the stormwater project, realistically, the timeline on something like this going live would not be until the fall or maybe early spring. As much as I would love to see something in 2021, I don't want to see it during the winter because that just kind of dooms it when fair weather folks aren't biking. So I kind of think based on that aspect, the timing might work out that the contractors would not be needing this space as much. And then I'm not sure what the use of this borough lot is during the day either, but I'll just add to that.
As the contractor parking along there, I believe, as we we're saying, that parking was offered up as a way to relieve pressure on the downtown area, from being overrun with contractor parking. And 114 Forest is, wrapping up sooner than later, but we do have 100 Forest and 203 Haverford coming immediately back on its tail. Just how long of a time frame are these trials run? Is it days, weeks?
I'll admit, the previous trial was 10 days officially, but I will admit, as Kim mentioned, I kind of see this one as an opportunity for something that we could put in, and as long as it doesn't cause major traffic disruption, actually leave and continue to use and maintain. Now, of course, if the pilot, and the beauty of a pilot is if it does show that it causes some sort of major traffic or parking problem, we can certainly, step back from it. But but I do think this one has an opportunity of how wide Haverford already is to be a, permanent installation if the pilot works out.
Yeah, I think of this as there would be an evaluation period, but we wouldn't necessarily remove it at the end of the evaluation period. We may well leave it in place. So.
Right, and I did hear you say that you have your conceptual plan of what you would like, and I was talking to Mike Schneider earlier. If that was something the borough was so inclined, he could take a look at it and kind of offer some guidance and help further develop that plan.
Yeah, I think that's probably.
With regard to signage, striping, all those kind of aspects on the road.
I think that'll probably be the next step. Is assuming council likes the idea, we pass it to. Well, possible we give it to him before it goes to council. We would probably ought to go to him before it goes to council, so he approves the idea as being generally safe, and then
Yeah, I can talk,
give him a quick once over at least.
yeah, I can have a quick chat with Eric and Mike, and, you know, if there's anyone else that you all or council would want involved in this project, given, you know, it's, given the uniqueness of bike projects and all that, we could do that as well, but yeah, I do think a good next step would be I can talk with Eric and Mike about it, get their feedback, and then at the next council meeting, as long as they're on board, we could officially, you know, approve moving forward with it and officially approve, you know, who all's going to be involved in working on it.
What is the timeline on the storm sewer, and the Haverford storm sewer project? Eric?
So it is, so the contractors received the contracts for execution, so that's going to take the next few weeks. I do know there's going to be a delay on materials, just because that's how it is right now. But the construction itself, as far as, this is not necessarily something that would preclude this bike lane from going forward. You know, I hope that construction is done here within 2021. It should be. So if you're having this bike lane in the spring, then this would have wouldn't have any impact. If it's in the fall, we just have to coordinate effectively. You know, the way that construction will proceed is the contractor would open up a section of road, place a new pipe, backfill it, and then you have the road surface again at the end of the day. So it's not going to be a complete open trench disruption. It's kind of a section by section working down the street.
Is the road going to be entirely closed while they're doing the work?
No, we do not intend to close the road. There will be some, when they are working at the intersection, you know, to modify at Wynwood and Haverford to do the inlets there. That would have its max disruption, but we should still be able to move traffic around it. And as they're coming down Haverford, we would just be able to have traffic around the workers at that point.
Okay.
Eric, I'm trying to remember with this contract, is there any striping already included in this contract?
Striping, then no,
Okay.
do not think so.
Is there any chance that if council approved a final design for this before the contractor is done with the Haverford project, that we could have the contractor already out there doing the Haverford work, do the line striping for this?
I mean, it is a possibility. I'm not sure. You know, some contractors will do it themselves, other ones end up subcontracting it out to another contractor, but that's definitely something you could explore. That's doable.
And it's something, I mean, I could talk to Fran, I mean, our public works department could probably, you know, could handle as well. But sure, I want to know what all my options are.
Right.
All right, any other questions?
So we support it, so it could move.
So we
It
support
can move
it.
right along.
We're gonna get the traffic engineer to check off and say this is a reasonable concept, and then
We're
bring it
gonna
to,
engage with actually designing a plan for it, yeah.
just to give initial approval, say this is fine, we can talk about it, rather than, oh my God, I think we're okay. But it's important to get the professional seal of safety before proceeding with an idea that alters the roadway. All right, yeah, it's exciting. Nice to be back on the. I'm actually going to a conference to talk about the pop-up bike project, so I'll be able to say, and as a result, we have momentum, and we're going to do another bike trial coming up. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Yeah, thank you, Kimberly.
Thanks for that.
Thank you.
Okay.
So I'm trying to get my, there we go.
All right, now going back to the item D on our agenda, which is information items for discussion. So we have the skate park. So we got a report from Fran Dixon, who's our current Public Works Director, acting
Well,
Public
he's,
Works Director, what's his official, I mean,
Well, I
he's a
think
foreman.
actually I'm technically the acting
All right, so
public
he's
works
the
director.
second of the.
So Fran, but to give Fran credit where it's due, like he has taken on a lot of that workload the last few months. But his official title is Public Works Foreman.
Okay, so our Public Works Foreman went and inspected the equipment that's on offer and came up with some estimates of what it would take to install and to bring it over here and install it. And I see we have a direct cash cost to install at Narberth Park would be $1,950, including insurance, the rental of a flatbed truck, and new signs. And the cost to install at Sabine would be $3,450, which would also include new fencing. So we talked about doing a temporary installation either at the tennis courts or in Sabine Park in the back of the lot. To again try this out and see how it works for the borough. In addition, 32 to 160 hours of public works staff time. There would be some disruptions to parks. So at Narberth Park, obviously the tennis courts would be interrupted, and at Sabine, the suggestion was the existing operations, the community garden, and parking could all be impacted. And then let's see, it would need to be inspected weekly once it was in place as well. All right, so that's kind of the breakdown of what the impact to the borough would be if we were to move forward with this. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. And sorry, I felt like at that moment was like piling on one side of the scale. I just feel like we already know what the benefits in the skate park are. So I just want to make sure we had a comprehensive view of both the benefits and the cost of doing it.
No, it's really important. It's good to get a number because people are going to be asking, how much does this cost? $2,000, $3,500. Those are good concrete numbers. So I'm a little concerned. Let's talk a bit about potential disruptions at Sabine. So the suggestion is that this would impact the community garden and the parking and current operations. Can you go into a little more detail about?
Yeah, so I'll admit I was kind of struggling a little bit to figure out where exactly in the parking lot in Sabine this would go if we decide to go with that location. Obviously, if you did it in the far back, that's where the community garden currently is. So that would have to move somewhere else. If you did it more in like the middle of the parking lot, then it's going to disrupt. I mean, there is excess parking at Sabine currently. I'd have to really get a better sense of how big of an area we would need to know the full extent of that disruption. But I mean, it would take away a meaningful number of parking spaces at Sabine. Now, admittedly, Sabine might have the capacity to absorb that. And thus, I don't know what the impact would be to the businesses at Sabine or people who are parking to use Sabine, Sabine Park otherwise.
Would it impact any of our contracts with tenants at Sabine?
It would not.
So at Sabine, the proposal suggests using some of the existing fence. So you can do that without interfering with the garden? There's another spot?
Yeah, it'd be closer to closer towards Sabine Ave.
Okay.
Now, I feel like though, if we are going to do it at Sabine, we probably want to put it closer towards Montgomery, so that way the noise doesn't impact the residences along Sabine Ave. So probably, if I had to pick a spot, and this is me purely as an amateur picking a spot, Fran would probably have a much better sense on this, would be you want to put it as, I'm not trying to hide anything, but you want to put it further back away from the residential properties for noise. But I necessarily don't want to disrupt the community garden because I've been told that the spot that it's currently in has like the best, has the best sunlight. Because I've kind of long thought, well, hey, shouldn't have actually go in the park, but that has the best sunlight, so I wouldn't want to necessarily relocate that either.
Okay.
Yeah, we've already approved the community gardens use of that space, so I would feel that it's inappropriate to use a space that they're currently using. I mean, if this were going to go in next year or something, we could renegotiate, but for now, I feel like we've already committed the use of that space, where the garden is. So I'm hesitant to try to ask them to move.
But I think you could probably fit it, if you did want to do it at Savine, you probably could fit it in front of where the community garden is and tie in with the existing fence line that runs over in that area. And you'd probably still be, you probably wouldn't take up, again, I don't know what the exact dimensions and all this, but I would imagine you probably would have enough excess parking at Sabine to handle it, and you would, again, be further away from the road. You wouldn't be right on Sabine, so it wouldn't be, the noise wouldn't be as close to the residences on the other side of the road.
So these are both locations that have hosted temporary skating events, right? Skate the Foundry regularly comes to Sabine Park on the park, kind of in the middle of the parking lot. I mean, they don't fence it off because they're there, but they create a space on the weekends in the middle of the parking lot. And they've also used the space, they've also used the tennis courts. So they've used both of these spaces. Rob, you have any thoughts on this training?
I guess, it's what, a difference of
About $1,500.
about $1,500, yeah. So to me, that's not that much, so I wouldn't, I think I would go with the Sabine location.
So the Sabine location was the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Board as well. They asked them to look at this idea, and they liked the idea. They thought it should go in Sabine. Yeah, so
However, the one monkey wrench in that is when I spoke with Hip Pocket Parks, the person there felt that Sabine would work, but felt that the tennis court would be better. However, he didn't say that it couldn't be done at Sabine,
Okay.
just so the tennis court area would be better.
Yeah, I guess, I know we've had this discussion, but I am sensitive to our neighbors that want to play tennis, and, we don't have a fully functioning tennis court yet, but, yeah, I think I would prefer to have it at Sabine.
Do you think it, again, forgive me for speaking out of turn here, I'm still kind of getting used to the flow of our meetings. Given that we do have Dave Bordeaux and Carol Marie on the line, would it be worth hearing from them at all? Or would you rather wait until public comment?
we can wait until public comment. I'm not sure, because my idea is I'm leaning over toward the tennis courts, and possibly we'll have a recommendation coming from the committee. We'll just ask full council to look at it, but
Okay.
I think we'll definitely want to hear from them on details, and maybe this person from the Fifth Pocket Parks, if we can ask them to attend the meeting, or get some
I'll
more,
try.
or just get more feedback from them maybe.
Yeah.
That might be easier. Just get some kind of a note from them as to their explaining their thinking in more detail.
Yeah, that sounds good, Fred. I think when Michelle originally proposed the tennis courts, I imagined that there would be a significant cost savings, more significant than $1,500. So that's why I'm more open.
Yeah, those
to
fences
saving.
are pretty cheap to put up apparently. I didn't know that. All right. Yeah, I would also guess it would be more. That is
Alright,
it.
maybe I can get a sense from Fran as to how big if we did it. Well, I guess I would operate on the assumption if we did it at Sabine, it would be an area about equal to the size of the tennis courts.
Yeah, maybe if we could get like a
Maybe mark it
specific.
out or something.
Yeah, mark it out. Get a location to consider, and make sure that we've got the cooperative garden is on this map too, so we can see how much of the parking lot would be taken up by both of these things, and how the flow would be. Maybe I should come back here. Maybe, I should plan to discuss this again next month rather than.
Yeah, when Michelle's here.
Yeah.
And we'll have all the information, that way we're not
Yeah.
sending it to council without
So
considering everything.
we'll take information from our the folks on take comment, and maybe let's bring this back here for another month. When we have, so I want to see the specific spot in Salem. That'll help clarify things. A specific spot in Salem would be considered. All right. Outdoor dining. So we talked about this last month. The borough's resolution allowing outdoor dining, particularly in the street, has expired. It was a temporary permission was granted. However, they're contemplating making it more permanent. Michelle Carroll did a survey of the community members that was posted on Facebook and I think in email. Got a lot of feedback from the community on their idea, their thoughts about outdoor dining. She did a lot of work collating and coding all the comments that we got in. They were overwhelmingly positive. There were many people talking about how it enhanced the downtown streetscape, made people feel safe during COVID, obviously. Some people just like eating outside in general, the fresh air and the warm weather. There were some concerns about parking spaces, and the other two concerns that came up the most were parking spaces and narrowing of access on the sidewalks, which would make it difficult for strollers and wheelchairs. Someone was saying, well, I have a stroller, I can't go downtown anymore, basically, which is sad to hear.
But although a very small number, from what I can tell, only 4 people.
Yeah, those were there were I think single digits of both complaints, maybe double digits of 10 or 20. Let me get the numbers. Let's see. There were about 200, it's just under 300 people responding to this survey, which is a very good, very good response for a small community. Yeah, I think there were 11 people who said it took up parking or sidewalk space. If I'm reading this correctly. So 5% of the comments. Nonetheless, I think for parking, we have pretty good data on how parking is going right now. And our parking controller regularly patrols those streets. Have we noticed any parking issues? Have we gotten any actual complaints from businesses about parking? Or?
Nothing related to outdoor dining, I'll say that. Now that we are really getting back to enforcing the residential 2-hour and just enforcing parking in general, there have been complaints from businesses, but I think all that is being covered by the parking study task force. So for outdoor dining, no, there haven't been any complaints about parking spots being taken out. We did reach out as well to the Narberth Business Association about it, and they were supportive of the of us having the outdoor dining spots. So.
All right, so I'm sympathetic to the concerns about constricting the sidewalk. I'm wondering how we can make sure that the sidewalks remain accessible if we keep this in place.
If I may share from the staff side, one concern about it is just if we continue to allow outdoor dining, which I'm generally in favor of, whatever that's worth, just that whatever people have isn't a permanent structure, because for snow plowing this winter, we will need, we will need the streets cleared out for snow plowing.
Yeah, I don't know how, I mean, the Greeks have built their thing, I don't know how permanent that is, but it's, we can't ask them to unbuild it. Well, we can say in the future. Oh, there was also some complaints about the orange barriers. People didn't like the, found unaesthetic.
Yeah, I mean, if we're moving forward with this on a long-term basis, I mean, I think when we originally did barriers, it was like, oh, this is an emergency, it's short-term. But I absolutely think we could find something a little more aesthetically pleasing if we were to do this long-term.
All right, so for the accessibility issues, I mean, can we specify like a sidewalk width and have code enforcement, patrol the sidewalks from time to time, walk up and down, and it's only 3 or 4 blocks.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
Okay, let's look into what a reasonable number might be for a width. And, try to. I don't think we currently have that in the code anywhere, like a minimum sidewalk width. So.
No, I know that traditionally, just as part of land development, PennDOT regulations are that sidewalk has to be minimum 4 feet wide with occasional 5 foot points for people to cross. And generally 5 feet wide is kind of accepted minimum standard.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think even before this, the sidewalks were not, they were much shorter than 5 feet at points just because of trees and, what else is in there? Those outlets, those little,
Yeah.
yeah, which are going to be removed, but nonetheless. But we should try to ensure an obstruction-free downtown as much as possible for all the users.
Yeah, so we could definitely figure out a number for that. The only thing I wanted to check with this committee as well is in terms of number of parking spaces. Did you have any thoughts on that? Right now, all the businesses in the downtown have 2, with the exception of McShay's because they have the big parking lot behind them. And I think McShay's is currently using 7, I want to say.
So I had a couple of thoughts, and I discussed this briefly with Samantha. We have a couple options that I think would make sense. One is we can say, well, as long as there's not a lot of demand for parking, that's reasonable. They can continue doing it. It's not really hurting people. And the other would be to say, well, everybody gets 2 parking spaces, and if you want more, council has to approve it, and you're going to rent the parking spaces. And pay for the use of the parking spaces. I don't know if you have any thoughts about this.
I mean, we're not hearing any complaints from the businesses at the moment. It's not until everything fully reopens, really, that we would hear complaints.
Well, maybe we should say that if the parking situation changes, we'll reserve the right to limit businesses to 2 spaces.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of like that one. Like try to maybe everyone gets 2, and then any more than that, council would have to approve on like a conditional basis or temporary basis or something like that.
Yeah, because I think right now there doesn't seem to be parking pressure, but I could see it becoming an issue later on. So.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we like the idea of continuing the outdoor dining. I understand the no permanent structures. I think that's a good provision to include. And then let's try to create a minimum sidewalk width so that we can ensure accessibility.
Okay, sounds
All right.
Would you all want, so me and the borough solicitor can create a new resolution to make all that happen. Would you want that to come back to this committee, or would you want that to go on to council once that's ready?
I think it can go on to council unless you add other things to it, or unless there's a problem if you can't make it work for some reason, then come back to this committee.
Yeah, and of course we're sensitive to the business needs. I mean, so I don't know, there may be one stretch where that width is not practical. We'll have to think about that.
Yeah, I don't know, because there's existing stuff just in the sidewalk.
Right.
There are plenty of things that are in there.
So there may be an exception. It's needed.
Yeah, maybe we could try to keep both the NBA and the 4 restaurants who would be directly affected in the loop about this resolution, and then we're
Yeah.
working on it.
I would be more comfortable with that.
Okay. I mean, it's more than 4 restaurants that use the outdoor space. Not all of them use the street space. If we're just talking about outdoor dining, a lot of them,
Oh, that's true.
outdoors
Yeah.
now.
Sorry, I was saying just the 4 that use the street space.
That's what we need to pass a resolution for
Yeah.
using the street space. The others are currently allowed to use the outdoors, but they can't be blocking the roads, blocking the sidewalks. So you do double duty with this resolution.
Makes sense.
Okay. Do we have any more? Okay. Then we have update on borough projects. EV charging station pricing. So we talked about this briefly at our last meeting, and we had a recommendation from a community member for a pricing setup for the EV chargers. And I think Samantha also agrees with that as a reason. So our goal with the EV charging is to recoup the borough's cost for electricity, and also to encourage turnover at the site, so people aren't just sitting there forever getting free parking. It is to have multiple users actually charging on the property. So the proposal is 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. energy 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Parking $1 per hour, starting an hour after you stop charging. And then 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. energy still 15 cents per kilowatt hour. Parking would be $1 per hour with an 8-hour grace period. So the idea is if you're there overnight, it's not really a problem, but you need to switch over in the morning to allow somebody else through.
Yeah, I like it myself because I think I thank Chris for bringing this to our attention. I mean, the third goal, Fred, I think, is that we want to make it possible for more residents to switch to an electric car if they don't have the option of charging at home. And so this scenario allows for that overnight charging, which I think really will make it feasible for more electric car owners to make a go of it. So I think it's a great idea.
All right. So, I mean, you already looked it over and thought it made sense. All right, let's go ahead with this. I don't even think we need to bring it to full council.
Being it's more of an administrative thing. So I'll let the charging company know so that when they're turned on, we will have that pricing.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
And then Bridge Art. We don't have an update there, right? We're still.
I think, to be fair to our planning commission chair, our planning commission has been very busy the past while. So I think myself and Michelle Carroll are going to reach out to him about maybe having borough staff get more involved in supporting him on that project.
All right, sounds good. Anything else for the committee? All right, public comment.
You're welcome to just unmute yourself. It's not like the council meeting.
Do anyone?
So I have some comment about the skate park. And so as I mentioned to all of the council members, there was a pop-up skate park at the Narberth Ambulance bike race, the Arbor Music Hall Narberth Ambulance bike race. And I came back with some kind of interesting take on this that I want to share with the council. So the vision of having the skate park initially is for the families of Narberth to enjoy skating and family time together, that. But it was Philadelphia Skate Academy was the one that hosted or that organized it. They're the ones that I hired to put the skate park together and to supervise and to watch it. there were several families, a lot of families that did come, and the kids were helmeted, the kids had their pads on, they were really, enjoying the time. But there also was a majority of participants who just came on their own, and they did not wear safety gear. And that to me was a big red flag, because safety is, primary safety is important. So I'm concerned that having the skate park, I'm kind of thinking of this through, that having a skate park at the tennis courts would, I think, be a better option. And my reasoning is because it's not secluded. It's with the basketball, it's with the soccer, it's with the other family activities that are going on down there. So my thinking is a better spot could be over at the tennis courts. Now, let's keep on going with this one. Why don't, or would you consider moving the tennis courts and the pickleball up to Sabine Park? The reason I say that is nice big space, quieter, and the tennis courts need to be redone anyway. So it's a great time to do it because it has to be redone anyway. I was a little concerned that other skate parks, and I know David can speak on this one, over by where there's more people there's less chance for issues. It's right next to the police station, so not to say that we're anticipating issues, but if things did get out of hand, like as with the basketball, if things get out of hand, the police are right there. So those are my kind of big thoughts on why the tennis court would be a better short-term option and long-term option.
All right, thank you, Carol Marie. David, do you have any public comments?
I would agree with some of the statements that Carol Marie had just mentioned about the skate park. I'd be more than happy to have a kind of an offline conversation with anyone individually just about my experience with some of the skate parks and what has and hasn't worked, at least from my observation through the years. I just think that it's just in general, I just hope that we do end up getting a skate park in the borough. Last year, the library did a bunch of fundraisers, and in January, February, we had 25, 30 kids signed up just to skateboard in the middle of the winter when it was 25, 30 degrees out. So there was definitely a large demand for it in the borough. In regard to what Carol Marie said, though, with things like pads, I think that, these are all things that you need to look at. You can take a look at other municipalities in the state or out of the state, and things that have worked and haven't worked. So you could probably you could learn from other municipalities what they've done, over the past 5, 10, 15 years, and we can learn from other municipalities what has worked for them. But it can be a source of community events, fundraising. It could probably help bring business into the borough. Again, I'd be more happy to have a separate conversation with some of the things I've observed through the years.
All right, thank you, David Bordeaux. And
Thank you, Dave.
should clarify that, among the list of regulations that we will be posting would be you have to wear a helmet and pads, I believe. That's our insurer has given us a list of rules and regulations, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and I think one of the things, Councilmember Bushway, and the things you do need to look at with that is how is that actually going to be enforced? I can say by having a sign up alone, that will not necessarily do the, if you like to chat later, but that will not necessarily, in my opinion, do the trick.
You're suggesting that teenagers are not going to just instantly obey whatever they see on the sign? I'm shocked. I understand.
Possibly not.
All right. Well, thank you for the public comment. I think we will revisit this next month. And
Great, thanks.
okay, is there anybody else who wishes to make a public comment? Anybody else on this?
Hi, can I make a quick comment? Oh, sorry, let me.
Sorry, go
turn on
ahead, go
video.
ahead. No, go ahead, Jean. Just give your name.
Hi, it's Jean Borak. I just wanted to make a quick comment about the mainline greenway. I just thought it might be a good idea for maybe people in the Narberth community and maybe people from Narberth Council to attend the mainline greenway group rides. We did finalize some dates. I think it's September 18th is the first one. And then we also have one on October 24th. So I just wanted to put that on everyone's calendar, and it would be a good opportunity to kind of test the route, and some other members from the Lower Merion community will be there as well.
Where can we get more information about those rides? Is it online?
So Kimberly will be posting the events on the Narberth Cycling Club page, Facebook page, so we'll be pushing that out.
Yeah, and sorry, as soon as that is posted, if you could let me and Michelle Carroll know, we could also, on Borough stuff, get it posted and put out to people.
Okay, yeah, that would be great.
Go in the borough, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
Alrighty,
Yeah, thanks, Jean.
thanks, Jean. Anybody else in the Zoom room? Okay, Kimberly?
Yeah, just speaking as a community member, Kimberly Bizak. I appreciate Carol Marie's comments about the skate park. My girls love skating, and I do see the idea behind the tennis courts maybe being a much better fit as far as the overall picture. You know, when I'm down biking or walking past the park, I always see kids spontaneously skateboarding down here when they're not playing basketball and different things. I can't say I necessarily see spontaneous skateboarding at Sabine Park. So again, thinking about desire lines or whatever you want to call it, this seems to be the area that the kids, are, finding their way to more than Sabine. And I see the longer term picture of the tennis courts. Maybe that is a nice quiet space up there near Sabine. So that flipping of use, I see the value in that for consideration. And I know you said $1,500 isn't a lot, but we are pretty COVID lean, and I feel like maybe $1,500 savings to do it at the tennis courts over Sabine doesn't seem like a lot, but in the big picture, it could help fund something else, that savings. So, and then the other thing, just to put on my occupational therapist hat for a minute, as far as Americans with Disabilities Act, you really do want to see 60 inches of clearance downtown on the sidewalks. 36 inches is the minimum width for a wheelchair to be able to pass, but they need 60 inches to make a turn. And then also 60 inches does allow not a comfortable, but a minimum passing for 2 strollers or 2 wheelchairs. So when thinking about sidewalk dining or sidewalk use, you really want 60 inches of clearance on the downtown sidewalks. So the more furniture and things that we can get off the sidewalk to maintain that, I think is better for inclusion. Just keep that in mind.
Thank you, Kimberly. All right.
Thank you.
Saying no more public comment, this meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.